every Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome in, Field of 68 After Dark. It's not Big Monday, but there is a big game going on right now as we speak, as Houston is attempting about 3 minutes and 41 seconds away from clinching a share of the Big 12 title for a second straight year. They've been in the league for 2 years. They're attempting to win this thing for the second time in 2 years. We'll get into that today here on the show. A lot to get to. One man's team is on fire on this show. One ACC Legends team is getting hot at the right time. The other, not so much. We'll get into all of that today on the show. There was an absolute barn burner in Lincoln. One of the best college basketball games you'll see all season long. Somebody had to win it, and Michigan did. I'm John Martin, joined tonight by John Henson and Randolph Childress. Fellas, good to be with you. And, yeah, we'll get into overreactions as it is Monday. We'll get into this Houston game when it goes final, and also Matt Painter and some of the things that he had to say, which I found interesting after the Indiana loss. But first things first, 49-46. That's not the halftime score, John Henson. That was the final in Lincoln. Nice bounce back for Michigan. Should it count, though, since no one got to 50?
You're muted.
Muted, John. Hey, you know what? This game is muted. This game was not on.
I've never seen, I'm looking across these numbers. I've never seen anything like it. I think Michigan gets beat having a night like this probably with 90% of the teams in the Big Ten. So credit to them for being able to win in a kind of a nasty game, a game where you're not hitting shots. Statistically, everything was pretty much even. They both turned the ball over kind of the same amount of times. But a road win in Nebraska is tough to get. Nebraska's knocked some people off at home. So credit to Michigan for, continuing to show that they're one of the top teams in the country. And this was a game Nebraska kind of sorely needed to lock them in. They are definitely, on the Field of 68's tournament, they're a 10 seed, but they've got to get some more wins down the stretch to really lock that in.
Yeah, we'll get into that because to me, it's just a larger conversation about, expansion in the bubble and that entire thing. But RC, this felt like, again, it was a road game for Michigan on a Monday. After you lose at home in a very disappointing fashion. So while, we can look at the score, we can look at the percentages, and we can all agree that it was offensive, insulting to the sport of basketball, it was very important for Michigan to win this game. Was it not, RC?
I think it was more important for Nebraska. Michigan's in the field. They're in. Michigan's clearly in. Nebraska needed to get this win because Michigan didn't play well. Neither team played well. You were home in an ugly game like that. You want to find a way to try to get over the hump and get a win. But credit Michigan. They're trying to win the Big Ten regular season title. And, they found a way on the road to dig out a win. But if you're in Nebraska, you're kicking yourself in this one because to play a game like that, you kind of hope your crowd and you can find a way to get, 50 points would have got it done tonight. You look at a game like that, you're going to count plays that you missed and, free throws. You're going to look at every little thing you could have done to win this game against Michigan. So it was an ugly game offensively. Both of these teams look offensively challenged. That's just being kind. But I thought they did play hard, and unfortunately for the Cornhuskers, you just didn't take care of business at home. So for a team that's squealing on the bubble, trying to find as many signature wins to beat a ranked opponent like Michigan would have been big to keep you off the bubble. What can you say? It just was a tough game, hard game, but credit to Michigan, man. They found a way. They've been in close games. I think it showed down the stretch. They executed and did what they needed to do. So credit to Michigan.
Yeah. John, this Michigan team is interesting, man, because when they win these Big Ten games, it's always by the slimmest of margins, right? 3-point wins, 4-point wins. I mean, damn near every single one of them. I think they're now 8-1 in games decided by 4 points or fewer. And then when they lose, it gets away from them, right? They lost by 27. They've lost by 13. Is that a skill to win close games, or is it just a team that's kind of living on the right side of that shot variance? Like, how do you kind of come down on Michigan?
You're playing with fire if you just constantly play to the level of your competition, which is essentially what a close game is, right? When Michigan got after them, they lost by 13. But if you look at their scores, 86-83, 75-73, 70-67, 80-76, 66-63. I mean, the last game that they won by more than 6 points was against Washington, I don't know, like a month ago. So definitely not a skill. It's called playing with fire and not putting opponents away and doing what you need to do to win games. And it could come back to bite them down the stretch. They've got some games coming. I mean, they've got Rutgers, who you can't play with. Obviously, Illinois is coming off of bad losses to Duke, Maryland, and Michigan State. So, it could catch up to you quickly, especially those last two games where it looks like Maryland and Michigan State are kind of going to decide their fate, and they'll be able to kind of play that out with the Michigan State game last. So, you play these close games, and then, when you don't play well, it gets out of hand. I think that is a sign of a team to fade, as we would call it, Mr. John Hart.
Yeah, I like it, man. And I don't disagree with you. But RC, in terms of, where this Michigan team is going, right? I mean, this is Dusty May's first year. Objectively, he's done a really good job getting the roster together and putting that team in the mix for, Big Ten contention. Obviously doesn't look like they're going to get there, but had a chance before the Michigan State loss. When you sort of, look at their trajectory, what do they feel like to you? Do they feel like a Sweet 16 team? Do they feel like deep? I mean, are they a first round exit? Like, where are we at on Michigan?
I'm a little indifferent than you guys about Michigan. I think that's just the way they play. They play with 2 7-footers on the floor, right? They're going to use their length. They're going to challenge you to shoot and score with those guys. With Vlad Golden inside, they're not playing the small ball the way everyone else plays, and for that matter, they're a defensive oriented team. They're going to be in these games. That's the way they got to play, and then they rely without a point guard, without a true point guard on the roster as well. Wolf kind of handles the ball most of the time and makes decisions for them in the half court. So it's just I think Dusty May's done a great job of just executing what he has. Style of play and what they're doing. It's just I have no problem with it. You're going to be in those games. Some teams I think need to play that way. I mean, if you're making shots and somebody's having a great game, you ride with it. But I don't think Michigan wants to play games where you want the ball moving and everything, but you don't want to get into a high scoring game because again, you're not the most offensively free-flowing squad. I mean, the ball, when it's making someone steps up and makes shots. If Donaldson plays great, it's different. But on a night like this, I mean, obviously they'll lose any other game. But defensively, man, they're playing 2 7-footers, and Wolf is having a guard on the perimeter. He got in foul trouble here tonight. I thought they attacked him a little bit off the bounce. Vlad is doing what he's done all year. I think he's been the most consistent player for him on and off the court. But again, they're not playing a traditional small ball style of play. I mean, so they're going to be in these tight games. They're executing well. They're obviously, you said they're 8-1 in these situations. Tonight, I thought they handled business. I'll say this to you guys. I don't know how you guys feel. Up to 2 seconds left, John, you got a free throw, and you're up 2. Are you making it or are you missing it? Because I always say you miss it, and then let them rebound and heave it 90 feet instead of going up 3, giving you a chance to run a play.
Yeah, or I would either you're going to miss or make and we foul. That's what that's so that's
but
kind of
2 seconds. It's like 2.4 seconds or so. So that's a dangerous foul if you're going to foul, and then you got to do it off the catch. I guess that's just dangerous. But I'm just saying, if I'm up 2 with 2 seconds left, it goes back to when we talked about the Iowa State-Arizona game. Yeah. I'm not making 3, allowing you to throw the ball to half court, execute your play. It's going to be miss it, you rebounded. If you take one
Yeah,
dribble
you
and
got to
he's
heave. Yeah,
85 feet,
Or-
then
and
we're
if the
gonna
ball gets
lose.
tipped,
So
it's
be
over.
it.
It's over. Yeah. Percentages probably, I would say miss it. Now that I'm really thinking about it, but obviously that's a coaching staff decision. But yeah, I think also matchup wise, Michigan could be a tricky team in the tournament, right? Like 2 7-footers. Haven't seen them, teams that haven't seen them yet. You're going to have to obviously game plan for them that size. So I think in the tournament they could sneak up on someone that's just haven't seen them up close before. Similar to, like, I think even at Houston, like when you get on the court with them, you see that defensive, you see that length, you see that size, athleticism. If you don't get it together, you're in shock mode. You're going home. So I do think this Michigan team they can make a run. I can see that.
By the way, in our I don't know what's like what I'm saying, permissible to like bring out to the open in the group chat. My default setting is if you put it in the group chat, it's public record, bro. That's how
please. Bring it up.
Anything I put in there, you know what I'm saying, I expect, it's fair game. But, some have drawn the comparison to Hito Turkoglu for Danny Wolf, John Henson. Do you think Hito Turkoglu would have ever gone 4 of 12 against this Nebraska defense? I mean, I feel like he probably wouldn't.
Listen, man, I Hideo Turkoglu and Danny Wolf. Are you? I'm gonna keep my language.
My man was having a bad night. My man was having a bad night.
Hito was like that.
You talking about European Jordan?
I was the first one to call him out on it. I called him out on it, so I agree with you.
Yeah,
let him go though. Let my man ride on this one.
You got to pull up Hideo Turkoglu highlights. Pull up Hideo Turkoglu highlights when he was 23. Like,
man, stop it.
Come on now.
Hey,
come on, man. No.
Yeah, that Orlando Magic finals run, a lot of it was Dwight Howard, but a lot of it was Hito Turkoglu. You know what I'm saying? And Rashard Lewis.
He was a guy.
Don't forget my man Rashard Lewis. So anyway, 49-46, Michigan polishes it off. By the way, we have a 3-point game in Lubbock. Houston was up 8. Couple of nutted shots there from Texas Tech. Kerwin Walton, hits a long 3 and goes to the free throw line, hits 2. So now we got a 3-point game. Interesting finish coming up there. Clinch of a Big 12 title on the line. But let's get into a team that's not playing for a conference title, that's just trying to play for a tournament berth right now, and that's the North Carolina Tar Heels. I mean, bro, it's true. It's sad, but it's true. 96-85, you see it there. They had to win today. They did, and they got to keep doing that. They got to keep winning. We talked about North Carolina RC about 2 weeks ago, after they got their asses whipped by Clemson, and we said they got to run the table, right? They had to run the table, and they've since won 3 or 4 in a row. So RC, how are we feeling? What's the temperature check on North Carolina basketball right now?
Listen, give them credit, man. I always pick on Hansborough and Henson when those guys are on and they Carolina grads, but they're doing what they got to do to keep themselves on the bubble and keep themselves relevant. Hubert changed the starting lineup, went with a little bigger lineup with Withers and Powell, Van Out and Lubin on the front line, with Elliot Cadeau and R.J. Davis. And since then, they've been scoring. They've had 2 games in the 90s, and they scored 81 against Virginia, which is like scoring 90. So offensively, they've gotten better. I think it's given them a punch from the bench with Seth Trimble coming off the bench as well. Washington has had some solid games coming from the bench. And obviously, Ian Jackson means he's back on the bench. So it seems to be working, that particular lineup, for whatever reason. But they're playing better, man. Give Carolina credit. Can they take care of business against everyone else? Yes. The big game is going to be, can they beat Duke at home? They're going to need that win either there or in the ACC tournament if they want to punch their ticket and climb themselves out of the hole and get back in the tournament.
John, are you able to wear the merchandise out and about again? Are you in that? Is it safe? Is it safe to do that yet? Or
yeah, I mean, there wasn't, I guess you could say, like, how much worse could it have gotten? So, yes, they're playing well. They're averaging 90 points over the last 4 against 2 really good. I mean, Florida State getting 96 on them. They're top 3 in all defensive metrics. Giving up 85 to Florida State is kind of scary because they lack that offensive punch that you see from teams normally at that level. But got to give credit where credit's due. The lineup change, with a little more size. Withers, I think, has been the number one X factor of just having, the perimeter threat. He's hitting threes. He's shooting with confidence. And, it looks like they found something with the starting lineup. And, I think the magic number is 22. They got to get 22 wins, however you want to call it. If they go, if they run the table at 21, and then they got to win a couple tournament games, maybe one game where, if they got to see a Clemson or a Louisville, I don't think that would hurt them. But the Duke game is going to be interesting. If they run the table and beat Duke, they're in. If they don't, they've got work to do. So it'll be fun to watch them down the stretch. I was telling y'all earlier, we kind of had this scenario where we would clinch my last 2 years, and we had to play Duke at the end, and we steamrolled them. So hopefully that's not the case with Duke. Being locked in and knowing that you win and you put a banner up. So we would love to ruin that night for them, but Duke looks like a juggernaut, to say the least.
Yeah, when you say it'll be interesting, like, who do you think it will be interesting for? Like, do you think it will be interesting for, like, Duke fans, or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who do you think it will be most interesting for?
Well, put it this way: at least it'll be some implications on the game, right? Duke clinches or Duke wins, and then Carolina gets the ball. So that will be fun. But I say interesting lightly because if beating Duke at home in the finale for them to win the ACC regular season title is what we have to do to get in the tournament, I don't like that. I don't like the prospect of that.
I will say this. If I was just trying to make a case as a Tar Heel fan, look what Michigan did to Ohio State, right, in football in the last game of the year. And there were no implications in that one. So when Ohio State went on to win the national championship, Michigan packed them folks up. So it is in Chapel Hill. Crazy shit happens, man. It does.
Yeah, it has, and it's snowed in Florida in July sometimes. You're right, crazy shit happens. It's been.
It ain't like that.
Look, I like Carolina to cover. How about that? Can we get I like Carolina to cover, but
let's
like I
said, when we get to the game, we'll see what the spread is, and we'll talk about it.
We'll be about 11 and a half. We'll be about 11 and a half.
When the spread comes, you and I are gonna talk. We'll find something.
Yeah, we'll have a chat.
Hey,
we'll have a chat.
John, how do you feel though about RC talking that talk when he's outside the bubble with your ass?
Well,
I
was gonna tell RC hey, we used to have a saying in Carolina when we play teams that we supposed to, on the bubble, and we wanted to beat them. So we would say somebody ain't gonna make it. That's what I feel about Carolina and Wake Forest. Somebody ain't gonna make it. Yeah, they're both not getting it.
Well, you're right. And right now, one of us is in, and it ain't Carolina. So if we saying that, one of us is in.
Man, we've seen this Wake Forest story before.
This is tough.
We've seen it. We've seen it.
Hey, I'm not saying it with my chest. I'm not jumping out there, and all that. But I'm just stating the facts right now. I'm not making an argument.
This is like, to be in the middle of this is like, such story programs, and y'all fighting over Dayton.
No. And you know what? I'm gonna be cheering like my life depending on we're playing for our lives. First day of the tournament, you know what I'm saying, and got to fly from the first floor to LA to play. So I'm gonna be, it is what it is. So
yeah. By the way,
Carolina's
respect. They are, and sometimes teams don't win games they're supposed to win in college basketball. So listen, it would not shock me.
It's not over, man. As much as we want to sit here and say winning conference games is just hard. It on a serious note, it's hard. People act like it's just like you're supposed to be, like you're only one playing with a level of desperation. Right now, those games are hard because the teams at the bottom of the league that you think record-wise is easy, they're even playing now because you don't even get a chance to play in the conference tournament. So like even in NC State, they're fighting so they can have a chance to defend their conference championship, which before was just a given that they would automatically be in it, man. So there are no easy wins, and you're gonna have to stay dialed in and hopefully Carolina's not caught looking ahead trying to worry about Duke. They got to take care of business game by game, as Wake and everybody else does. So it's just the way it is, and no matter what conference you're in, there really aren't any easy games.
Ken Palm's got it 10.5 for Duke. Is that a 7-figure bet for John Henson, North Carolina plus 10.5? Like, how many figures are we talking?
No,
I'm gonna tell you. I'll give people a story. The last big bet I did on Carolina was like 2 years ago. I think. What was it, last year? I think they're like -9 at home. I was like, oh, they're locked in. It's NC State. We hate those guys. NC State got with them. So I leave Carolina alone, to be honest with you. It's emotions are not good in gambling. So, but that's that. I may take UNC first half. How about that?
Okay.
Oh, how much? So am I? So if the
5.5,
so
6.
it's 10. If I take a 5.5, so I can get Duke.
Yeah. Take 5.5. Duke starts slow, home game, little juice going, senior night, RJ. Hey, it might be a little emotion in the building. Duke's probably not going to lose until then. A little letdown spot, that's all. Early.
Hey, I do think we're going to get to a break. I do think that if North Carolina is going to cover the full game, they're going to cover the first half. And if they don't cover the first half, they're not covering the full game. So exactly. I actually think that makes a lot of sense. We'll let you and RC handle that during the break. We'll come back. Kelvin Sampson just continues to cement himself as one of the absolute best in the sport. He's done it again. We'll get to that when we get back. Field of 68 After Dark.
College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. Bet insurance tokens, odds boosts, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two here or there. Be sure to keep your eye out in the app for the Field of 68 specials that we'll be running throughout the season as well. So go download the BetMGM app to sign up today.
Welcome back, Field of 68 After Dark. We are on YouTube. We are on Sirius XM College Sports Channel 84. And, we're going to do Overreaction Monday like we always do. In the next segment, we're also going to touch on Matt Painter and some of the things that he had to say about the coaching business and the Indiana job specifically, which I think some of us can probably, agree with and relate to. But first, he's done it again, man. Nobody in college basketball has won more games since 2018 than Kelvin Sampson and his Houston Cougars. Nobody. And since they joined the Big 12, nobody else has won that league either besides the Houston Cougars. And he clinched to share the title. I mean, I think it's mathematically like if Houston loses every game the rest of the way, there could be a tie or whatever the case may be. But we know it. Houston is going to win the Big 12 yet again. Listen, 69-61 tonight on the road in Lubbock. Texas Tech caught a bad break with McMillan and Williams out. There's no question about that. Who knows how different the game is if those two guys are playing. Maybe a lot, but, you have who you have, RC, and Houston wins this one the way they win most of their games. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look pretty, but it's tough. It's gritty. And if that's the way that game is played, I don't think anybody else is gonna win that game if Houston's involved. 69-61 final, RC.
Listen, we talked about this. We're all Houston fans in that aspect, and so much respect for Coach Sampson and what he's done. he's come in and taken over a league that Kansas has ran for quite some time. And to come in there and do what he's done in back-to-back years, man, credit to him. We talked about it. He never gets enough credit. I do think this team is one of the few teams that I think could win it, and I've said that. I think there's, in my opinion, there's about 7 teams that I have that I think that can win the national championship. A few sleepers, but they're one of those 7 teams that I think have a legitimate chance. And I think they're a little bit better offensively than they've been in years past. I know they caught Texas Tech missing those guys. That's 30 points combined. So let's not make light of that. At home in Lubbock, Texas, missing Williams and missing McMillan. Those guys are big. But listen, it's not a pretty style. They defend. That's what they hang their hat on. They're the best defensive team in college basketball. I think it's going to take you somebody to have an out-of-body experience and making shots to beat them. You're going to have to make shots that you usually don't make. They're not going to give the traditional shots that you think you're going to get. So you're going to have to do that, and it's possible. Again, they're not going to run away from you. You're not going to your game when you play them. It's not going to be in the 80s and the 90s. So, but if you can find somebody to step up and make shots, you can beat them. But they're going to be a tough out for anybody. You're not going to have your free-flowing ball movement style, whatever you're doing. You're going to have to always say it's like playing A&M, bro. You're going to have to go in the deep end and swim. You got to go out there with the Sharks and swim and get your ass back to shore. It ain't going to be pretty. So that's just the way they play. Credit to those guys for doing it. And I say this, man, it's early. It's too early for toast, but we got to give Uzan a ton of credit, man. That guy came in there. They crushed him, talked about how soft he was, what they lost so much and shed and what he brought to the program and what he meant to him. And he's elevated his game, man. It's not just tonight. He's just gotten better and better and better, and I think he's obviously one of the reasons why we're also so high on those guys.
He hit the decisive 3 in the game there to put it to 6 when it was 62-59, and it felt like, oh man, like Texas Tech is going to do this. That's probably part of the reason why Kelvin is so successful, John Henson. That man identifies point guards better than anybody in America, because RC is right. Milos Uzan was a guy who everybody was skeptical of, and Kelvin was telling people, trust me on this. I know what I've got, and that dude's January and February have been as anybody that's probably not named Janai or Cooper Flag.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, we don't talk about this a lot. Him being able to retain his guys, like, we don't discuss that, but that's part of the game, right? Like, you've got to retain your guys through the portal, negotiations, however you want to call it. And he's done that as well, a lot better than a lot of teams in his league too. So when you couple all that, it's impressive. And I remember we were questioning like a couple years ago, how's Houston going to do? I mean, they're starting their Kansas run, right? Just top of the league, not much anyone can do. I mean, Texas Tech was missing 2 of their top guys, but this is the second best offense in the league. It held them to 61 points, the lowest total of the year. On the road.
Yep.
And to beat this Houston team, you're going to have some boys. And there's some teams with some boys, but they're not going to see them boys until later down the road. But if you don't have like RC said, if you can't swim in the deep end with them Sharks, you're not going to make it back to shore. So it's not a lot of teams that can.
Yeah, I mean,
and they lost early in the year, man. They lost to Alabama and Auburn, and we were kind of like, having some doubt, having some concern.
Hey, let's run it back. Let's run it back.
Listen, Bama got some swimmers, RC. That's why. Bama got some boys that can swim down there. That's all that was.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But Uzan was not playing this way.
No, not like he's
in
playing
those
now.
games.
No.
But
Alabama's the type of team with multiple handlers and shot makers that could give anybody trouble. Again, we're talking about another team that could win a national championship too. So losing to Auburn, losing to Alabama, those are the teams that in their group that I think of potentially winning the Natty. And giving credit, man. Sampson he's that dude. And I tell you what, all this talk about Indiana, boy, for what he got fired for, it's like laughable now. Like it's not even a crime anymore. You know what I mean? It's just.
And it's time for Houston to make some noise too, though. It's time for Houston to make some noise, right? We kind of been like, it's time for them to get there, right? And really have a chance, right? It's time for them to get there this year. They've been in the mix for so long. it's time for them to kind of turn that corner with Roberts. I mean, they got 2 guys on the team that's start over 135 games or something. So experience matters, and this could be the team to maybe turn that corner, get them to a Final Four, and maybe be on that floor when it's all said and done. If any year, this might be the year.
They just had such brutal breaks, right, with the injuries.
Yeah.
Sasser a couple of years back. Shed, I mean, I think they're in the national championship game if Jamal Shed doesn't go. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. But, last point on Houston, I think people forget, fellas, like just how bad a shape that program was in when they hired him, way back when, 11 years ago. I mean, the only thing they had was like the relics of five in the gym. They'd have nothing.
Olajuwon ain't walked on that campus in
Nope.
like 40 years, bro. It's been a while.
Nope. And he came in and said, listen, like the Fertitta Center, this is not adequate. I need more from y'all. That we have to raise it reminds me so much of when Cal took the Memphis job. The similarities are kind of crazy because he was kind of disgraced from Indiana. It's like Cal. They both came over from the NBA, and they just kind of renovated everything from the inside out. And now he's in that run where he's going to the second weekend and he's winning the conference. I mean, he's navigated.
Look
NIL.
at you trying to find a way to slide Memphis in there. Look at you trying to slide. Look at you trying to.
That's
get
how
Memphis
it. That's
in there,
what
man.
it was.
You want to talk about your Tigers, man? We was just down there. You want to talk about the Tigers?
Hey, change the rundown. We're going change the rundown. We're going to do Memphis Tigers. Go. All right, go start.
Tigers, man. Can
Not
they
at the
hold
moment.
on? Will they take care of business and beat UAB and win the regular season for the first time since 2013? That's what we need to be talking about with these Memphis Tigers.
Hey, you're right about that. There was once upon a time where they shared a league, and I miss those days greatly because those were freaking battles, man. Those were wars, and now it's just Wichita State and friggin' Tulsa all the time. But yeah, congratulations to Kelvin Sampson, who just continues to be the class of the sport, man. He really does.
Yeah.
He comes in. Kansas is like 6th in the Big 12. If you guys think those two things are unrelated, have some cereal.
And for the people at home, Houston's not a bad city to recruit in. I'll tell you that.
No.
Oh yeah.
No, not at all.
That's
drop the spots. Drop the spots, John. Where are we going?
I mean, listen, man. I'm telling you, if you're a kid coming to Houston and you're getting recruited, it's a nice city. We'll keep it at that. We'll keep it. It's college now. It's a nice city. We can just. He doesn't have a hard time convincing kids to come to Houston. I'll tell you that one.
Right.
So
also,
it's a secret little hotbed, man. I mean, he's home, man.
Ain't no secret.
It
ain't no secret.
Yeah. Hey,
Ain't
not
no
anymore.
secret.
Not anymore.
Also, for Houston, this probably puts them in the catbird seat for a 1 seed. You handle business the rest of the way. You're going to be on that one line. There's no question about that. All right. So again, Houston gets it done. Texas Tech will be fine too. They get their guys back. We know they're going to be a tough out in the tournament. There's no doubt about that. And that was a revenge spot. Don't forget that revenge spot for Houston. Matt Painter lost a game over the weekend to Indiana. It was a freaky game because they're up double digits, and you kind of feel like this Indiana team is letting go of the rope, but they start the second half on that 28-3 run, and they end up winning the game. It was quite emotional for Mike Woodson, but after the game, as we know, they're making a change there, and Matt Painter was kind of asked about the fan base and the job and what he thinks Indiana should sort of do now, and he had some interesting comments. So let's hear from Matt Painter and what he had to say about Indiana.
Let's support somebody. I gotta try that out for once every now and then. When shit goes wrong, like whatever, you think Purdue fans are happy about what just happened? Like you like, see, a fan base isn't the people that tweet. A fan base is the people when you're bleeding, they support you. Like they jump in and off, they jump on and off things here way too much. Like support your coach, man. Support your players. Don't tweet negative things about them. Like be supportive. Like, see how that works for you. But they build them up, like, and they overdo things. Like, quit overdoing shit. Just accurately, like, talk about what's actually happened. Like, don't, like, get, like, recruits and, like, that's Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. Then they come out here. Well, they're not Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. They're good college players. Like, and then they build it up, and then they go, well, what's wrong? Well, they're part of it. but it's not their total fan base. It's just that everyone has a bad percentage of their fan base now because of Twitter. And then we think that's their fan base. It's not our fan base. It's not their real fan base either. And so I think that's an important piece. But it's hard for young people to hear all that and then go out and collectively play like, hey, man, we're playing for you guys, but you dog us when we lose, and then we're the best when we win. Well, we're somewhere in between, right? So, like, I think they need to learn from some of those things and support Scott Dolson and support the new coach and support the staff, but also got to be grounded with everything.
All right, RC. What do you make of that?
Listen, I understand what he's saying, and I've been on the record for what I've said about Indiana and another school for that matter. I think Texas belongs in that category as well, and at least Indiana, from a basketball perspective, has national championships for the level of expectations that they have, and they want to get back there because they have the resources that they put in the program. What I think they're doing now, they make it harder to get the program going. To piggyback off what Coach Painter was saying, is certain coaches with certain jobs that you would want, that you quote unquote think the Indiana program deserves or wants. Those coaches that you're trying to get are already at jobs, and they're looking at how this situation is, like Matt Painter saying, and they're like, I don't want to go there and deal with that. And somebody will take the job. You're always going to have options to get the job, but it's not going to be the people that you want. I mean, you're thinking, the name everybody throws out there. We all know it. I'm not even going to say it. He ain't leaving the Celtics front office to come back and coach Indiana college basketball. Like, let's cut that out. And so even one else, like, from going back to Dusty May, will somebody else do it? They could write a big enough check to do it, but a lot of situations like that make certain coaches with jobs go, man, I don't want to go there and deal with that. And I think that's what they're doing to themselves. So from a fan base perspective, I would say there's things you don't like, but probably figure out a different way to display, to show your displeasure with coaches and players early on. You got to. But again, these guys didn't do themselves any favor either, right? If you're going out the night before, if some of the reports that's coming out of there were true, then you deserve some of that too. So let's not act like some of this stuff isn't deserved and with the suspensions and things that were going on within that. You brought some of this on yourself. So I do understand what Matt Painter's saying long term. But again, you got to get somebody in there that's going to be able to adjust roster construction. This team didn't shoot it well all year long. We had concerns about their ability to shoot from deep. So that's going to be an issue of concern, whoever takes over the program. But the resources is there. It is Indiana. They'll be supported. They'll have everything that they need. And if it turns around quickly, then obviously this fan base will go over the top. But I think everybody understood what he was saying. He's basically like, hey, you guys have been at a turnstile with your coaching staff here lately. You probably need to hire somebody in there and give them some support and let them figure things out. But let's be honest, that's not the case anywhere anymore. So that's just a guy, an Indiana guy that's just supporting a rival school that's one of the best coaches in college basketball, and he's able to solidify that.
Yeah, you have to have some sort of an internal belief, within inside your program, within inside your organization. And if you don't, it just comes out, it rears its ugly head, social media. And so you see, I mean, it's just like shades of Kentucky and Louisville, right? Like,
Yeah.
they want the guy, they want the certain guy. And because the environment is so toxic, they're not going to get that guy because, why would Scott Drew, who they're going to build a statue for, leave Baylor for a toxic situation? Like, and so on and so forth. So, you hope that they find their guy that could lead the program to do, like, they have the resources, they have the name, they have, I think when I was kind of, with the Oladipos and, Zeller, Cody Zeller, those times, Indiana was rocking, and it's better for the sport. So
right.
It's going to be interesting to see just what happens and who they pin for the job. But if I'm a guy that's up and coming right now, I think this is the job, right? If you want to be the guy, kind of similar to Dusty made in Michigan, this is like the job that can change your life and your legacy. So, they'll find the right fit. And as far as just like RC said, with the off the court stuff and being out, it's college, right? But as players, you got to understand the era you're in. When I was in school, if they had cameras and iPhone social media, it would have been bad too. So
Yeah, but
it's
you
a
guys
whole
are
different
winning.
ball.
It's different. Nobody says it when you're winning,
For sure.
right? Like
For
you're
sure.
winning,
For sure.
you're a top 20 team in the country. Nobody says it. You
For
can't
sure.
do it when something's going on and you're getting suspended. You didn't. We've had teammates that have done it, but we weren't suspended. We weren't caught out when it was happening.
Jason Kidd told us we got caught out in L.A. at a dance club, and we were on TMZ, and he said, "Look, you know the rule."
No, it wasn't no dance club.
He said, "Look,
Yeah.
we lost to the Lakers at the time. They were the worst team, they were the worst team in the West. We lost to them." And he said, "Listen, if you're going to hoot with the Owls, you better be able to soar with the Eagles. So you got to learn that as a player. And Indiana just got to take heed of that, their players. And if you're winning, everything is good. If you're not, you know what time it is.
Hey, and let's be clear with it too, man. Credit to the coaching staff and players. They didn't quit. Like this thing was bad. This felt like it was going to be an implosion. Yeah. They were going to implode, man. And we said it here. I've said it when you heard the reports about that and then the suspensions and all those things we're talking about. These kids are still fighting, man. They're still fighting to get in the tournament. And honestly, I'd be lying to you. I'm cheering for them just because they've already announced that they're moving on. So what would you do now if they go on a run and then make it into the NCAA tournament? It would be funny to me to see that happen. So I'm actually cheering for them. Yeah, just for the hell of it, because of that. But no, the players obviously hadn't quit, and they hadn't quit on Mike Woodson. So that says a lot to me.
Yeah, good call. All right, we'll come back, do some overreaction on the other side. I think we have 4 tonight, so we'll definitely get you guys reactions and overreactions in college basketball on the other side. Field of 68 after dark.
Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Humble podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that.
Welcome back, Field of 68 After Dark here on a Monday, which means it is Overreaction Monday. I think, quite honestly, calling it a dance club is an overreaction. Like, it's just not that. I mean, like, a dance club is like, you do a little salsa, you take the wifey to do some salsa. That's a dance club, bro. It just really was. It was a gentleman's club.
And you fully dressed.
That was that's the word I was looking for.
Don't forget to add that part of it, John. Everybody got the clothes
That's
on.
the word. That's the word I was looking for. A gentleman's club, but we don't call that where I'm from. We call it the strip joint. So I couldn't find a gentleman's club.
We'll just keep it there. We understand it. We know this is the strip joint. That's all.
The strip joint. All right. I got you. Forgot it's after
I like
dark.
that though. It is after dark. Who with the sword the Eagles? I think that's illegal.
Yeah, if you go who with the Owls, you got to sword the Eagles. That's an unspoken rule. If you're gonna do that, listen, you better be able to get up and do your thing, or it's
gotta get up and go to work.
Yeah, or go to sleep.
Exactly. All right, let's get into some overreactions here. Tom, what we got this week in this week's edition. Kansas, which by the way is up, I think, double digits on Colorado as we speak. Kansas will either be a first-round exit or find themselves in the Final Four There is no in between, RC. Is that an overreaction?
A little, because I don't see a Final Four in this group. If I had to bet, which one, I'd take more of a first round exit. I don't see a Final Four in Kansas. You don't want to speak on, but just Bill Self's recent interview about his team, I think it's I want to speak for him. He's it's too much respect and legendary coach to even say anything about what it is. But again, I don't think it's this team isn't playing well. They're leaking oil to me coming down the stretch here. They'll take care of business. There's no doubt they'll beat Colorado tonight. But I don't even think they'll make a run in the Big 12 tournament, let alone in the NCAA tournament. So they look like they're searching for answers, or there's something going on, and I don't know what that is, but there's some frustration in Kansas right now, and you can see that. So they're off to a strong first half here. Hunter Dickinson is doing what he's done most of the year, but I'm not big. I don't expect much out of Kansas in the NCAA tournament. So I'm definitely not saying Final Four. If I had to pick one of those two, judging from that question, then I'd say it'd be more of a first round exit.
John?
Yeah. RC said the word a few times. It's a team sport. It's a team sport. And it's easy to see when a team is together and a team is not, and don't know what's happening in that locker room or what's going on, but this is not necessarily a team. They have the talent, but when basketball is such a funny sport, I don't care who you have, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and so on and so forth. If you don't play as a team, you will not win at the highest level. So there's definitely something going on within that team, role acceptance and things of that nature. You can't just put together a team of guys, and think this is going to work, man. You've got to analyze, you've got to build around. I say this I've said this a multiple times this year, how when they talked about how Shire put together his team, he wanted to build around Cooper Flagg, right? Complementary pieces for his game. I think that's the way college basketball is going, especially if you get a guy. You can't just say, let me go get Storr and Griffin and, does he fit?
Let's be
Who's
clear,
your guy?
John. Hey, John, to your point, let's be clear. I think one of the biggest things we can fairly say is that to your point, they missed on the portal when it came to that roster of fixing that, plugging those holes, those guys. Not saying those guys are bad players. They came in as good players, but mixing them with that talent, it didn't mix well. It didn't with Storrs and Griffin and those guys. It just didn't mesh the way it has in the past.
You got Storr. I think he averaged 16, 17 points last year coming off the bench, not playing that much. Griffin obviously was a big part of, Zeke Mayo's starting to come on a little bit, but he's not necessarily doing the things that they thought he was going to do. And so when you look back on it, it's like, okay, maybe if Hunter Dickinson's our guy, let's build around Hunter Dickinson, and so we thought when we saw what they did in the portal, we were like, oh, okay, Kansas is back. But I'm sure Bill Self will figure it out. He's a legendary coach, just like Izzo has, figured it out. He'll keep plugging. We're just in a different era, man, and I didn't play in it, so I have no idea how it is inside those walls with the NIL and 1 year player. I was roommates with my guys that I came in with and I left with, and so it's just a whole different ball game. That's why we were so close and played such a team, because we lived together for 3 years.
It's frustrating, man, because you go out and can you imagine? It is pro basketball in a sense. It's semi-pro basketball, right? You pay a kid $600,000-$700,000, and then he's not performing to your liking. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to coach him. It's just like, damn. And so it creates a lot of issues, and it's not just them. I think programs we're saying it's like with Carolina, and we're saying it's about Kansas, things that we would have never said in the past, that when we see, not necessarily that it's chemistry issues, but it's just like, hey, we got to change the way we're doing things if Kansas and even look at Kentucky a year ago, right? It wasn't just getting to the tournament. When you're talking about Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, it's not just about getting to the tournament. Those are the blue bloods, the championship level programs, and you're expecting them to be. And you're not. The last 2 years with Kansas, and this Kansas team, let's be honest, let's be frank, this is disappointing. they're not as bad as the Carolina was a couple of years ago as far as being ranked number 1 and not making the tournament. But there seems to
not
be a
far
level
off,
of
though,
frustration.
to your point. I mean, they're really not that far off. I mean, they're
No,
gonna make
they are. But they're still top 25. Now they may play themselves out of a top 4 or 5 seed, but they're not going to fall out of the tournament, is what I'm saying. So they're not as bad as Carolina was number 1 and out of the tournament. There's nothing that looks like for a team that's preseason number 1. You would have said, hey, Kansas is going to the finals. None of us feel like they're even gonna, they'll be lucky to make it to the Sweet 16. Before we say anything like that. So you got to hit on the portal. You got to change. You got to do some things differently. It's going to be interesting offseason with Kansas because they're going into this stretch, man, where, hell, Hunter Dickinson and these guys are gone. That foundation of DeJuan Harris and Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams, these guys are, you're going to have to, this thing's going to change.
Yeah, you wonder, is that going to be a welcome thing in Lawrence? I'm not saying that applies for everybody, but you just sometimes it can be addition by subtraction. But that's a different discussion for a different day. All right, what's next, Tom? Ashley says Kentucky will be fully healthy by tournament time and make a run for the final. Start with you, John. Is that an overreaction?
Yeah, I think it's an overreaction. I don't think they defend at a high enough level to really make a run. Obviously, the offensive aspect of their team is amazing, right? The style of play, but they're just too inconsistent. And as you look kind of what they've done against essentially the top teams and top talent, top team in the country, top team in the country, they'll get a win and then they'll have a loss and they'll lose to Texas and win against Vanderbilt, lost to Alabama at home. Nobody's saying that's a bad loss, but they're just not consistent enough. But I mean, I can't. I mean, this is Mark Pope's first year at Kentucky. I mean, I think he's somewhat outperforming what we thought he would be, and he still has Kentucky in the mix nationally as an elite program. So I think for the first year, that's really all you want at Kentucky, especially after seeing what Arkansas is doing, with Coach Cal. So definitely not a Final Four team, but I can't knock. I mean, I love what he's doing. I love the energy around the program. I love their style of play. It's enjoying to watch. So not a Final Four team, but definitely, I think they're in a good space.
Yeah, they won't make it Final Four. Lamont Butler will never be a healthy player. He's going to have – I'd be shocked if they say he doesn't have to go under the knife or have extended rest. So they won't get healthy. They can't get healthy. The shoulder injuries popping in and out, man. It's already popped out again. He's just gutting it out, trying to just finish his career and play. Credit to him for doing it. I can tell you that from having 3 shoulder surgeries, it affects your play. It's hard. That's tough. That's a tough deal for him, and they need him, and he just won't be 100%.
Yeah, I will say this though on Kentucky. Like, if you're a Kentucky fan, like to me, it's mission accomplished already, right?
Yes.
I mean,
check the box
because
it's a great year already.
Exactly. You didn't know. Like, I mean, you're hopeful and you're welcoming a fresh start, but like, there's a lot of different ways that this thing could have gone, and I just think Mark Pope has already proven himself, RC, like he's going to be a factor in the SEC. And I
his system is going to be fun to play in. The recruiting is going to be easy. It's Kentucky, and the system's going to be fun to play in. They got it right, man. Let's be honest. You ran off Cal, and you better get it right when you do that because he was going to get talented, and they did. So credit to them.
Absolutely. All right, we got one more time. Mason said Purdue had a little speech. We continue to show business beating them, hang around and clams out. There's going to be way too many really talented teams at team seeds for them to survive. All right, John, can you make sense of that one? Is that an overreaction?
I wouldn't call it. I mean, no, I don't think it's an overreaction. That a 10 seed is like Nebraska, right? Like now we're talking about Nebraska. Like, that's a team that could beat Purdue if on the right night. So I don't think it's an overreaction, but I do think Braden Smith, the experienced lawyer, those guys have been to the national championship game. I think that's going to trump any kind of letdown early. So we'll call it overreaction, but there's a chance. But definitely not an overreaction.
RC.
No, I think this tournament, outside of it, I only feel confident, like I said, in about 7, 8 teams that I can say that. I've said that making a national championship. It could happen. There's so much pressure and responsibility on Braden Smith. Fletcher Lawyer played well the other night, even though they lost. But I don't see them losing in the first round or anything like that. I think they'll get to the second round at least, and everything's like everyone else. It's just matchups at that point. I don't think they're a dominant team that can just beat anybody, but I do think that they're a good team and a well-coached team. So, if they get the right matchup, yes, they could lose in the second round, as anybody could. But they're just too well-coached, and they've had a better year even than I thought they would. I thought they'd have more of like a UConn type year where they were good, but they, not a top 25. They've been consistently a top 25 team all year long, man. So I no shade on them.
I mean, I'll say this, and Elon's XAI center in Memphis has been dragging on my internet all night. I don't know what's going on in Memphis, bro. I got to get it fixed. I got to make a call. But I watched Purdue, and I think the fatigue factor with them is real because they have 2 players. I mean, Braden Smith's minutes are catching up to him. TKR is obviously going to have foul trouble issues every single night. So I watch them, and I believe the struggles, bro. Like I believe that. I'm not saying that they're
and you fix your broke ass internet, man. We ain't got time.
Oh, man, it's good. I was about to take a picture. That was a good freeze right there.
Yeah.
That was a really good.
Hey, I need you to do me a favor too before we get off air tonight too. I need you to call Rob and Jeff and them and update your picture. Like, I don't know what's going on with that picture, man. Yeah, that was your prom picture. Was that your prom picture they posted?
It basically was. I was like 19 probably. So yeah, I'm with you. We got to get the headshots updated, man. There's no doubt. There's no question. But yeah, I believe the struggles. I would not be shocked at all. Just to bottom line it, if Purdue does lose in the first round. All right, toast the night, RC. What you got?
Calvin Sampson, my man. To the Houston Cougars. You kidding me? Are we going anywhere else tonight?
Yep. I'm going RJ Davis, moving to the third all-time ACC list. Yes, it's in 5 years, but nonetheless, big time.
I mean, that's like a
RJ, next time I see you in Chipotle, man, buy my nuts, all that money you making.
Trying to tell you.
Wow. Hey, that was a reluctant toast, though, RC. I gotta say, and I get it. I mean, you did find a way to toast.
I got nothing but love for RJ. I got all love for RJ.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you, Kelvin Sampson. Nobody's won more games in college basketball since 2018. He deserves to share the Big 12 title. That's going to do it for us today on a Monday. Thanks for being with us here on YouTube and SiriusXM. For Randolph, Childress, John Henson, I'm John Martin. Keep it locked on Field 68.